It's that pressure is on. That game in hand now goes to Manchester City, and now it's just a 2-point lead for Arsenal at the very top of the table. A little nervy now for Arsenal. Yet again. Both teams have finals to play for. Obviously, Arsenal, the Champions League, and Manchester City with the FA Cup. But this was a huge match for City, and they were able to do it with a fantastic performance despite a rotation, but still a very professional performance from Manchester City when they needed it most.
When you think of teams that challenge for Premier League titles or any trophy in world football, you need to have every single player on your squad, every single player in your team contributing in both boxes. And we saw that today from Manchester City. And you're right to point out the just number of changes that Pep made, and we'll get to that in a bit. But it was so good to see City go to this business as usual sort of presence. The first goal was everything. The first goal was so important, and to get it from some supporting cast members who have kind of been left out in the cold, or so we thought, is everything Pep will want to see. But I just love the professional environment. I love the professional mentality, and now it puts the pressure back on Arsenal. This title race is definitely not over yet, and City had to take care of business. I've been there as a player where when you're chasing another team, you can control the controllables, and City right now have to win out, given that they have the big FA Cup final this coming weekend.
Yep, as you see here, it was a flat-out domination for Manchester City in this match. And we talked about Pep Guardiola. Let's listen in to the Manchester City manager after the match.
See this title race now, 10 days to go. Do you still see it? I mean, what's the plan from here on in? You just kind of have to keep them as honest as possible, keep the pressure on to the final day and see if something can happen?
No, of course I want to bring this option until the last game. Unfortunately, it's not in our hands. For many reasons. Yeah, it's not easy, but important is we are there, and this group of players are all extraordinary. This season have been the joy absolutely every day we're with them, so have been really good. Now we have the final, and I could say Bournemouth and Aston Villa, they are not the easy ones, to take. But look, Bournemouth is playing for European competitions, the big ones, and is playing extraordinary. I don't know the last game they lost, but now we have a take a break, and I think deserve all the attention and the credit. The FA Cup final and the last 2 years for many reasons that we didn't win.
Do you want to go into them?
No, it's not necessary to them. It's not necessary. I'm nice because when we lost, I didn't just congratulate United the Crystal Palace. But hopefully we can do like always, I believe. And I said for the day one, in this club, to win the games and win the title, you have to be much better. So in equal circumstances, you will not do it. So it's simple as that.
Okay. What circumstances?
You know that.
Okay.
Had to get out of there quickly before having to answer that question. If you're a Manchester City fan, it clearly hasn't been the season that you're used to, but you have to feel a lot better back in this title race with Pep Guardiola at the helm. And he was able to do it again with rotation. Not having to play Haaland in this match, I think, is a massive advantage for City moving forward. And this is the lineup he put out there.
Yeah, look, he made 6 changes from the side that played against Brentford at this very stadium at the Etihad. And I've long since questioned this with Pep. Keep in mind, Stefano, when City started getting on this winning run and this comeback formula, it was with the same group playing match after match after match, and eventually you're going to see the legs go by the wayside. We saw some of the cracks in the pavement in that Burnley match where City were very fortunate to get 3 points. The only thing they did was get the 3 points because I thought the performance didn't back it up. Then you go to the Everton match, and that's really where the chaos ensued. That sense of focus or lack of focus really cost them. But now Pep leans in on the supporting cast, and this is where I go back to being a supporting cast member contributing. Trust is earned as a player, not given. And players like a Phil Foden, like an Omar Marmoush, they earn trust. And I go back to their performances, especially Marmoush, scoring the goal with Erling Haaland on the field. It is so important for him to see players like Josko Gvardiol as well, making his first appearance since January, will give Manchester City and Pep added confidence that they can go the distance and just say, hey, as long as we're in this on all fronts, we think that if it comes down to the final day, and I think this as well, if the Premier League title goes down to the final day, I think City are going to win. Solely because you're getting more confidence from the supporting cast. And what Pep Guardiola did today, I think, is a lesson to Mikel Arteta. If you're Mikel Arteta, you've done a masterful job so far. But the one big criticism I have of Arteta, and Arsenal fans will back me up on this, he hasn't used a lot of his supporting cast members. He's been forced to use players due to injury, but you think of Christian Mosquera in the match against West Ham. He had to bring him in only because he was forced to. If you're Mikel Arteta, that's the next level for you as a manager, to learn to trust the depth that you have, and Pep did today.
Yeah, it's easier to trust when you've won trophies before, when you've won several trophies before. It's a fact, right? It's easier to trust that rotation when you know that has been proven. But let's go into some of those rotations, because Phil Foden today, probably the player of the match, 2 assists. And this is a player who, in his post-match, said, I haven't had a good second half of the season. I lost my place. I had a very good first half. And that inconsistency has kind of rounded up what his career has been. But this was, again, a moment for him to shine, and he was able to do it, and getting the 2 big assists in that first half.
I'm so happy to see Phil Foden playing back with this freedom of expression, this freedom of self, this sense of self that we know is in there. Let's not forget that this is a Premier League player of the season a couple seasons ago. The magic is still there, and to see the way that he had that back heel on the assist to Antoine Semenyo, that is the stuff of dreams. In my opinion, on his day when he's feeling confident, Phil Foden is one of the best players in tight spaces in the entire Premier League. I'd put him in there, Bernardo Silva at times when he gets higher up the field for City, Ryan Cherki, Bruno Fernandes. They're of that ilk of elite quality in tight spaces. To see Phil Foden play with a smile on his face, love that. But it comes against an opponent that when you go back and you remember, I had to think about this. When did Phil Foden score his last Premier League goal? It was against Crystal Palace. So good on Pep for rotating, but also knowing his player that this is a team that he tends to show up against. And so if you're a player like Foden, you have to reward the trust that the manager's put and given you. And I want to go back to the Brentford match, because I've talked about Marmoush getting his goal, but a lot of people who watch the game, and when you truly watch the game back, the game changed when Phil Foden came in the team. Most people will see that Jeremy Doku gets the Golazo, as you should, because it's an individual moment of quality. But what I noticed, what I saw, was Phil Foden went into the midfield, and he just upped the energy. He gave a bit of spark, gave a bit of life that the team needed, and we saw that carry over today. But he wasn't alone in that in the final third.
He wasn't, because Semenyo was there, and that first assist was for Antoine Semenyo. And I'm going to flat out ask you, he's got now as many goals as Erling Haaland has, 6 goals, since he arrived at the club on January 17th. Has Semenyo been the best player for Manchester City in 2026?
It's a strong argument. You can't deny the number of goals. He's got 9 since coming over from the move from Bournemouth. But
in all comps, yeah.
As of late, there's been other players who have filled in that gap. Let's not take anything away from Jeremy Doku. Manchester City would be out of the Premier League title race and probably out of the FA Cup as well had it not been for Jeremy Doku. But what I love about Antoine Semenyo, he will go down for me, him and Mark Gahey, should City win, and even if they don't win the Premier League title, as the signings of a January window. City don't even get a sniff of this Premier League title. They don't even win the Carabao Cup. They don't even get any trophies, in my opinion, if they don't make those 2 signings. What Antoine Semenyo brings is versatility. And I don't think a lot of people knew he had this in his locker. As they say, as the kids say on the streets, I wasn't familiar with your game, sir. I love watching this version of Antoine Semenyo. He has the ability to play as a second striker. And if you watch him with the Ghanaian national team, which I've done, if you watch him, what he's going to do for Ghana at the World Cup, don't be surprised if he comes and plays more centrally. He's a versatile player. He's learning to be more consistent in the final third in terms of goal scoring. And when you think of the big goals that are scored in this calendar year for Man City, he's right up there. And some of the biggest goals scored in the Premier League against the biggest teams, he's right up there as well. So he's been a revelation to City fans, and I can't wait. I mean this. I can't wait to watch him at the World Cup.
Yeah, it's going to be great to see. And it's what's funny, too, is you see this team, and they got the pieces exactly how they needed. And at the beginning of the season, we were all saying, well, this Manchester City doesn't look like it's going to go out and be able to win anything. They go out and get probably the 2 biggest signings. I would argue that in all of Europe, maybe in January, you could add maybe Ademola Lookman for Atleti as another impact January signing. But I would argue that those 2 signings for Manchester City, probably the biggest January signings in all of Europe.
Yeah, I think it's a strong argument. And keep an eye on this as well. We just saw that City's next match is against Chelsea in the FA Cup final. In my opinion, Phil Foden needs to start in that cup final. Remember, we don't know what's going to happen with Rodri. City are still waiting to see who can be in that midfield to fill the void for Rodri.